All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to our Salumiere training. I gave you all a practice test on Wednesday. Sorry that it took me so long to get together, but I've been pretty slammed just like everybody else. I know, if you're like me, sometimes you feel like you're waiting to the last minute to study for some of these exams. Hopefully you've been reading up and going for it. I think everybody here on this list, everybody that's with me today, I think you all are CCPs or above, which is great. That's a solid foundation. That doesn't mean you're necessarily going to pass this test just because of that. But again, this test is exactly the same format. It was helped develop by exactly the same outside organization that helped develop the CCP exam. It was written, the questions were written by the charcuteriers. So just like the questions I sent you, I'm not a professional test writer. I apologize, or question writer. But I do feel like I have a similar head and phrased them in similar ways. So hopefully those questions weren't too confusing for you. So the way today is going to go down, I am going to go over this old CCP prep. I sent this out to you. You can go back and look at it. Number one, we're going to talk about test taking tips. Just a refresher, I know for a lot of you here. Then we're going to go cover the math a little bit because I didn't ask you any questions about that on your practice quiz. Then we're going to go through the quiz. And hopefully I feel like that'll be a good little review for everybody. If you have any questions, chime in or hit it in the chat. But I'm going to keep rolling. I did turn off the video just so I could see my full screen because I'm one screening right now. All right. So Nathan says too, remember while you're taking this test, it's multiple choice. Read the entire question, multiple choice question in its entirety. Read it before glancing over the answer options. A lot of you, I know you're so smart, but it's easy in this exam, I think, to breeze past some of this. Do pay attention. You often think you know what is going to happen, and you may not. This is a big mistake and can cost you dearly on a multiple choice exam. So read each one thoroughly and carefully. You have plenty of time for this. It's only 100 questions. Answer it in your mind first. After reading a question, answer it in your mind before reviewing the answer options. And this is going to help you prevent from talking yourself out of the correct answer. I do that. Guys, go with your gut. This exam, I really feel like they're not. Again, this isn't designed to trick you. This isn't designed for you to become a charcuterie maker. What they want out of this test is the baseline knowledge, just the basics. So I think a lot of you, again, I've worked with a lot of you. I know a lot of you pretty well. We all have the tendency when we're all really smart, I'm including myself in that, to sometimes overthink it. Slow it down. Get your gut feeling and go with it. All right. More tips for this. Eliminate wrong answers. Just like in your old CCP, guys, eliminate the answer options, which you're not 100% about. It's easy to do. So if you go through and you don't know what's happening, you're like, oh, crap. If you know something's not, mark it out, and that's going to help you decide or give you better odds for picking the right one, right? Even when you believe you know the right answer, go ahead and eliminate those wrong ones. They're going to help you out. Use the process of elimination, of course. Using the process of elimination, cross out all the answers you know are incorrect, just like I said, and then focus on the remaining answers. That's going to give you a good shot for passing it. Of course, select the best answer. Some of them may seem kind of correct. Again, I don't think they're trying to truly screw with you on this exam. It's not like, aha, I got you, but they got to make it a little tough, right? So some answers may seem like they could be the right one, but choose the absolute best answer that you think fits. And just like the CCP, if there are questions that a majority of the people miss, they go back and review that. That's what takes time getting your results back. So if there's a question that's written bad, heck, as we go through what I sent, we may find that some of these questions didn't make sense. And in that same vein, they would take that question and cull it and not count it against anybody. So if something's completely weird, just do your best, and they can still throw some of those questions out if need be. Read every answer option. Read every answer option prior to choosing the final answer. This may seem like a no-brainer, but it's a common mistake students make. As I talked about in previous section, there's usually a best answer to every multiple choice question. And if you quickly assume you know the answer without reading it first, then you may end up choosing the wrong thing. That's where it's not trying to trick you, but the question itself may have been written in a way that's slightly confusing, okay? Be sure to read it thoroughly and don't get too cocky. I'm not trying to get you guys cocky by saying if you're taking the CCP, you're going to do great, but take your time, read through it. You guys have this. Answer the questions you know first. If you're having difficulty answering a question, don't get bogged down in it because that's going to throw you off, right? Move on and come back to tackle it once you've answered all the other questions you know. Sometimes it's it's easier to answer questions with your first insight. One thing I did here, which may happen on your exam as well, is you may not know the answer to a specific question that's being asked, right? But further down in the test, there could be a question that phrases, which there's maybe a statement like in a question that will actually answer one of your previous questions. I'm pretty sure I did that on this exam by including something that's kind of similar or that could have helped you out with another question, or at least I tried to do that. But remember, like if you don't know, give it a second and move on. Make an educated guess. It's not going to kind of get you on the score. Like if you think you're going to miss it, then give it a shot. On some standardized tests, incorrect answers are penalized. For example, a correct answer may be worth 2 points. An unanswered question worth 0 points. Incorrect is worth negative points. That's not going to happen. You just get points. So go for the answer. Give it your old college try there. Other than that, pay attention to these words. Pay particularly close attention to the words not, comma, sometimes, always, and never. I did in your practice exam that there were a couple of nots that I threw in there. I didn't use a lot of sometimes, always, or never. There may have been a couple of those, but look for those. An answer that includes always must be irrefutable. So if it says always, it has to be. No ifs, ands, or buts. If you can find a single counterexample, then the answer is not correct. The same is going to hold true, y'all, for the word never. If an answer option includes never, a single counterexample will indicate the answer that is not correct. All right, it's usually best to stick with your first choice. That's what I said earlier, but not always. I would go back only go with your gut instinct unless a question later on down the test takes you back to it and gives you a different kind of answer. Right now, hold to it. I think you guys have a lot of this information. More of it, all of the above or none of the above, which is basically the way I wrote all of the below or none of the below. When you encounter these, do not select all of the above if you're pretty sure that one of the answers is provided incorrect. The same applies for none of the above if you are confident that the least one of the answers is at least true. So those can trick you up, and that'll be one of your choices to choose from, all of the above or none of the above. I don't think I put that on your test. That's probably on your exam. But if it is all or none, you got to make sure that every one of those before, A through C, actually is or actually isn't. But I don't think you're going to see too many of those. When there are seemingly two correct answers, this is a high possibility. This is something I was looking through here, even with some of the degrees, temperature of food in here. Some of them may seem similar. Some of them may seem close. But when two answers are correct in a multiple choice question with an all of the above option, then it's probably the correct choice. So you got to kind of get a little bit more specific with some of those. All right. Place your bet on the positive option. In most cases, a positive option is probably true if there's also a negative one. More people want to think about positivity, right, than anything else. The more information, the better. More often than not, the correct answer usually contains more information than the other topics. This is good to know if you must guess. And I can tell you from writing up these questions, that's spot on. Because it's hard to be incorrect with being long-winded. It's easier to give all the information and give a little bit longer answer than not. So I agree with that after sending that out for sure. All right. Those are just your tips. Before we go through the other things, again, take your time, breathe, relax. Please know that the IDDBA does not have an authorized educator program. So I've taken the test, but they've moved on. I have received no information about the exam, the location, or the time. That should have all been fed directly to you. And I'm going to count on you guys to follow those directions. I've sent out and asked, but I haven't received any feedback yet. So again, I have none of that information, but hopefully you all do. If there is an issue with that, please contact me and I'll try to contact the IDDBA as soon as I can. Okay. But let me know if there's any issues, but you all should have that information. All right. Pricing, markups, and margins. You got sent this PowerPoint. Everybody can go through it, read it on your own, practice on your own. This wasn't on the exam, but just wanted to cover some of this with you, just to make sure that you know this is on the test. This is absolutely on your exam. You need to be able to do these. Manufacturers often confused about how to calculate markups and margins, profit. Markup and margins are different. Markup is the amount you add to your cost of goods, COGS. And again, you could get asked a question about COGS and need to know, of course, it's cost of goods sold, right? To arrive at a selling place. Margin is the percentage you make on the sale of expressed as a percentage of the selling price. It states how much profit you've made based on a given selling price. For example, a 25% markup will yield a 20% margin. You need to know the difference between these. Practice this. Go through, even if you have some of your old CCP notes with math, go through, make sure you have your equations memorized. And I believe just like in the CCP, from my understanding, you're going to be given something to write down with so you can work off of it. But you're not going to be able to bring in anything with you, to my knowledge. To find a product selling price with a desired markup, use the following formula. Just memorize this. To me, like it's, you know, I'm not, believe it or not, I'm not a math wizard or a super genius. I know I come off that way quite often to many people, but I had to like memorize, get this going, because even though I knew this and do it for work sometimes and have done it, I will get flustered sometimes when like getting put on the spot, and there's nothing more putting you on the spot than an exam. So even though you may feel really good about it, make sure you get these down, okay? So cost of goods sold times 1 plus the markup percentage, and that's going to get you your selling price. For example, a product with cost of goods sold at $10 and a markup of 25%. What you're going to do is you're going to take your COGS times 1 plus your markup percent equals selling price. So 10 times 1 plus 0.25 equals 10 times 1.25, 1250. We got that. I know, like, the thing is, I know we do this all the time, guys. Memorize this. Conversely, the formula for calculating markup with a given selling price and COGS is the selling price divided by your COGS minus 1 equals your markup. So 1250 divided by 10 minus 1, that's going to be 1.25 minus 1 equals 0.25, or of course 25%. All right. And I'm just going to keep rolling. To set the price with given COGS and a desired profit margin, you're going to need this formula. COGS divided by 100% minus the margin percent, and that's going to get you the selling price. An example of this is if an item costs $10 and you want to add a 20% margin, you're going to have, again, you're going to have $10 divided by 100% minus 20%. So that's going to give you 10 divided by 80, which equals 1250. Conversely, and know it backwards and forwards. Like, know that, you know, they're not going to give you the most difficult numbers to work with. I'm going to go ahead and tell you, they may not be all good brown numbers like this, but it's not going to be terribly complicated with like 299.54. Don't worry about it being that hard. Get this basic, but you will have to be able to interchange these formulas. So conversely, the formula for calculating margin with a given selling price and COGS is the selling price minus your costs divided by the selling price, and that's going to give you your margin. So in this example, $12.50 minus $10, and you're going to divide that by $12.50 equals $2.50 divided by $12.50 equals 0.2 or 20%. But you're going to get several of these questions. I would say anywhere from, I would say 6 to 8 questions or math easily. So make sure you do work on this, and it should be something. Hopefully it's a gimme for a lot of you. And hopefully I'm not wasting your time right now talking about it. So pricing, here we go. Working backwards. Because your product must be priced competitively, work backwards to calculate your profit. If you or distribution channel partners aren't making adequate profit, the product will not succeed. Although every product is different, a product's price increase with every exchange of hands. As a manufacturer, you must account for every markup and how this is going to affect the final retail price of your product. And quite honestly, they could ask a question out of something like this, right? Thus, you need to know what commission the broker will take and how much the distributor and retailer will mark up your product. That's just a business sense that would be an expectation to take this test. So that's something good to know, is like, what are some of the factors, that you need to know before setting your pricing? You need to know about commission. You need to know distribution and retailer. How much are they going to take? Now, for example, let's assume a manufacturer sells a product to a distributor using a broker. The distributor sells to a retailer with a final retail price of 99 cents to the customer. The manufacturer produces the product for 49 cents. So that's going to be your cost of goods. Okay, so if the manufacturer is producing that, you got a cost of goods of 49 cents. With a 30% markup, the manufacturer sells that product to the distributor for 64 cents. Taking into account the 5% or 3 cents commission to the broker, the manufacturer's revenue is 61 cents per unit sold. The distributor purchases the product for 64 cents and marks it up 15% to 74 cents. Retailers then purchase the product for 74 cents, and then they mark it up for 35% to sell it to the consumer for 99 cents. All right. The retail dollar is broken down as follows. These numbers are based on an average markup. This example does not apply to every product, but here we go. Cost of goods, and this is just a breakdown of what I just explained, but puts it, I like things in graphs and bullet points. Like a bunch of words jumble up in my brain. Cost of goods, 49 cents. Manufacturer's 30% markup is 15 cents. The broker's 5% commission are 3 cents, not added to the price. The distributor's 15% markup is 10 cents. And the retailer's 35% markup is 25 cents. So the retail price, 99. All right. Hopefully I didn't go through that too fast. I know that was just talking through it. I'm not a good whiteboard math educator. Hopefully you've got a bit of a head for this. You've already had to study it for the CCP. Hopefully this is a good refresher for you. So what I'd like to do now is pull up, and now I'm going to go through the practice test I sent you. And I just want to be able to pull that up and make sure I have this new share screen right. Perfect. I am seeing my practice quiz that's highlighted. Can somebody shoot me a chat, say if that's what you see? Just want to make sure we're all seeing the right thing. Everybody logged out. Everybody's having a beer right now. I can tell. Thank you, Katie. I know I can count on you, Katie. You're my favorite. Awesome. Good job, guys. Okay, so here, go through it. Now, these are weird questions, guys. I know I sent you 60. You're going to have a 100 question test. And I pulled all of this, and I've got behind me my books I pulled information from the reading materials that were sent. I know it was a lot. I went through all of my books to try to get as much as a well-rounded questionnaire that I could get. So if there's any questions to this, chime up. This is okay. This part, please be interactive. Or if you don't understand something, or if you want to call me out, or if you think it's wrong, let me know. All right, but we're going to go through it together here. To make a product appealing to customers, what is the charcuterie or counter staff expected to do every day with their charcuterie? This was in their body of knowledge, basically. So this was something they sent out. It's kind of an odd wording, I know, but this is something that's expected. You're expected to wash and brush product to properly remove the mold and maintain appearance and flavor. So everything else, so nothing? Absolutely not. You're expected to do something. Peel the casing off everything and pre-slice it for the customers? No, you're not supposed to do that. Rinse off mold with cold water and then give the meat a vinegar bath? Absolutely not. You don't do that, but you need to wash and brush the product. That doesn't mean I'm washing and brushing all the product. Some product needs washing, some product needs brushing, right? To remove the mold and maintain appearance and flavor. All right. Where did the practice of preserving meat and salt originate? That I know is weird, but I pulled that out of Salted and Cured, right? So I pulled that out of here through my reading. It's something that I highlighted when I was studying last year. Asian deserts. You got to think back in time. Of course, it wasn't the Australian outback. They were kind of isolated. Europe, no, everything from Europe expanded from either Asia or the Fertile Crescent area in the Middle East. So just know that when you're going through, if you don't know, if you're going deep into history, remember the Fertile Crescent, remember in Asia. So remember those parts of the world, and those are going to be your more correct answer. What does the word charcuterie mean? So I'm going to start with B. It is a term referring to the actual wooden board cured meats are displayed. Absolutely not. It's derived from the French words pork and cured. That's close. That's a little tricky. It's the French word for pig farmer. No, but it's derived from the French words flesh, which is char, and cooked, cute. I would remember that one. That's something to definitely remember on that. What animal meant meat? See, I made a mistake. What animal meat is most prominent in charcuterie making? It's not fish. It is hogs, of course. And this is where I think there's different answers. A different answer could have told you. But of course, pigs, hogs are the #1 meat used. It's not cattle. It's not chicken. The fat distributed throughout meat is referred to as what? And actually, I think I'm going to do something here, guys. If this will allow me, I'm going to take all this out and we can answer it together. That may be more interactive. Boom. How about that? Now let's open that chat feature and you guys can throw out answers. Sorry, I kind of took that the wrong way. All righty. So get your chats ready. Let's get at this. Everybody answer it. Don't look at your answer key. Tell me what you answered. The fat distributed throughout meat is referred to as what? What is the fat that's distributed? Marbling. Perfect, Andy. Marbling. That's what they're getting to. So, but you see what I mean? Like it's not this question verbatim, but do you think marbling is important to the total charcuterie world? In the same way that the CCP focused on questions that affected everybody in the industry, it's going to be similar here with charcuterie. So marbling is huge in the meat world. Know what that is, right? The good stuff, I know that was me being silly. Mike Lobin, still need to know what that is. That's a tricky one because you still need to know about it, but that's different, right? And sinew is also in meat. So you got to know the best answer there. To be fair, I've often heard you refer to the fat as the good stuff. Hey, Greg, I have. It's the good stuff, And the old, what is it, in The Great Outdoors, the old 96er? I would have laughed up that gristle at the very end. All right. Here we go, guys. Number 6. What animal do most contemporary archaeologists point to as being humans' first domesticated food animal? Animal for digestion. B, hogs. I also This came straight from this book. So if there's other answers out there, I know we talk about, and I preach about goats in the cheese world, right? Goats were the first, goats or sheep are highly likely the animals we first domesticated to use their parts. But hogs, that was specifically for eating. We didn't try to milk pigs. We just ate them. All right, perfect. Because those could have changed. I threw camels in there because, like, yeah, you think of the Middle East, that could be a little tricky. All right. What preservation techniques preceded salt and dry curing? This one could get a little tricky. What preservation techniques preceded salt and dry curing? What could human beings do before you do salt? Fermentation's not it. I know that's a good guess. Like it's air and dry curing. I was going to put smoking on there as a choice because it's often thought, the whole story is charcuterie makers would hang meat above the fireplace. And I was trying to think of a way to word this better, but salt and dry curing is one thing. So that's one process, salt and dry curing. Before we learned how to use salt, we really knew how to use the sun. So this is where it's coming from as far as like drying fish hanging out in the open. So that's really what that's referring to. So remember that it's air and dry curing. Then once we learned how to salt, then we do that. And then we learned about fermentation after that. But before that, we knew the sun was hot and dried things out. The word cure stems from what language? And what does it mean? Yes, it is Latin. Cure is Latin. And I'm making sure I'm getting my answer key so I don't steer you wrong. It's a Latin word for to take care of. And I would remember that too. That's something it was in one of these books, but I remember reading that specifically. All right. Which of the following is Italian for to dry from the inside out? To dry from the inside out. It's talking specifically about a piece of meat, right? Is it cotto? Does cotto dry from the inside out? No. Salami? No. Salumiere? No. It's going to be prosciutto. And that's when you're just studying a little bit about prosciutto, that information is there. All right. A hog transforms everything it eats. And this was a hard question for me to phrase in the right way. But again, I think I got it out of Salted and Cured. Or no, this was from the Olympia book. This is from Olympia Provisions book. So this means when a hog consumes food, what does that hog convert that food to? That's what I was trying to get to. It is, so a hog transforms everything it eats into what in its body? Meat and fat. This is C. So the answer to 10 is C, meat and fat. It stores it. Lebanon bologna, a dry or semi-dry sausage that is preserved by cutting, drying, and smoking rather than cooking, is also known as, this could be a little question. A, right, cervelat. Excellent. And that was kind of reaching, but this is where things tie in. If something has a common name or different word, I think I've got a question about blood sausage or something coming up, but they will ask us something about that. I don't think it's too difficult, but here, if I didn't know that, this is where you could mark down, well, it's not San Daniele, San Daniele, that's a prosciutto, right? So that's not it. If it's a bologna, it's not going to necessarily be head cheese. So this is where you could truly cross things out if you didn't know to help you pick that right answer. All righty. I transform everything I eat into brain matter. Yeah, right. All right. Schaller and Weber is based out of which city? So Schaller and Weber is based out of which city? Is it Boston, Philadelphia, New York, or Washington? I guess those are what I think those accents are. It is C, New York City. So know about some of the charcuterers. This is, know where is, do anybody know where Olympia Provisions is located? I would know that. That's not on this test, but can anybody tell me, do you know where Olympia Provisions is located? Thank you, Katie. Yes, Washington. So it's gonna be Washington State. I believe it's in Portland specifically, but I know it's based in Washington. Perfect. But these big times know who Kevin Oots is, know where the Spotted Trotter is from. Of course, those of you here with my GFI team, y'all know Kevin pretty good. You know he's in Georgia. So know those. Just in the same way at CCP, had to know where the big time cheese shops are. Think about the big time charcuteries and where they're located. Mostly domestic, Greg. This is, they don't get that big into specific companies. They may ask you where prosciutto is from, the region, but they're not going to go into specific cities and give you specific French charcuteries. That's not necessarily it. Three Little Pigs they could ask about, of course. Think about your big guys, and they could get into that. But they'd ask simple questions on those. Perfect. Number 13, regardless of what type of charcuterie you're making, what are the 6 crucial elements you must keep in mind? This was difficult, but in my bag of books, I got this one from the Olympia Provision book, which I suggested you guys to get. It's the cheapest one, and I find with some of the best information out of it. But I found that is here. So what do we think it is? Is it deliciousness, cleanliness, aging temperature, recipe control, current measurement? Or is it cleanliness, raw product temperature, cooked product temperature, cooling, collaboration, and correct measurement? Or is it cleanliness, freshness, fat content, salt content, spices, curing time? There are no crucial elements. Making charcuterie is just about having fun. So we know we can mark that one out. But here, this is another one of those examples of where the long-winded one is the right one. And plus, it uses more professional words. So this is deliciousness. There's no way to gauge that. There's no, that's arbitrary. So that's not going to be it at all. Throw that one away. But then you got cleanliness, freshness, fat content, salt content, spices, and curing time. That's kind of cool, but it doesn't explain anything. So B, this is what you need to remember, B. And again, I got that out of the book. They could ask that in a couple of different ways, but know about cleanliness is paramount. Raw product temperature, cooked product temperature, cooling, calibration, not collaboration, calibration, and correct measurement. So this is, know those. All right, number 14.
So really quick, Nathan, can I go back on that question? I had a tough time with this question because I was thinking of a lot of varieties of charcuterie that aren't cooked. And so I saw the cooked product temperature and I immediately threw that answer out.
No, that's a good point. And that's, I don't have an answer for you on that, but I'm trying to find what page it's on in here. If it's something questionable like that, then that may be something they throw out. Okay. But again, I'm sorry, but I got that one right out of the Olympia Provisions book, verbatim. So just have that in your head. But good question. If there are issues with some of this stuff, we can go back to these IDDBA and bring something up.
Okay.
All right. But good question. When making charcuterie, again, these degrees I also pulled from Olympia Provisions. And I wanted to make sure because there's different temperatures on the internet and everywhere. But my goal for any confusing time was to use the source materials they provided, even though they didn't give specifics of where it was in there. Hopefully they won't ask anything quite like that last one. But as far as when making charcuterie, raw meat should never exceed what temperature? On 14. And you guys can talk too. If you want to open your mics and talk, that's totally fine as well. So what do we think about that? What should charcuterie never exceed? It's A, 44 degrees. So raw meat, when making charcuterie, raw meat should never exceed 44 degrees. And that's Fahrenheit. I don't recall them asking anything in Celsius. I don't recall them asking to convert Fahrenheit to Celsius. So that's why I went with Fahrenheit on here. And I don't think you'll see an issue with that. If they do something, they'll give you the option, or at least if I recall, it was this Fahrenheit Celsius where they did the matchup for you already. So you could really just focus on one temperature. But hopefully soon, one day, the United States of America could get on the metric system and we'll be less confused to get on Celsius. Number 15, every cooked product should be cooked to what minimum internal temperature? So this is the best answer. So you're going to get different, like, you know, I know like with chicken, they want like 165. Again, I pulled this out of Olympia Provisions. So is it 200 degrees? No, that's pretty high. 155, that seems right. 255, get out of town. And 100, not enough. So here it's 155. So 15 is B, 155 degrees. To measure, and these are things to know, like this is absolutely, this information, you know, temperature and safety, 100% is going to be on this test. To measure the internal temperature of any given meat product, where should you place the thermometer? That was another hard question to kind of phrase in the right way. But is it wherever you want? Meat tips are the same throughout any cut of meat. No, we all should know better than that. Absolutely not. That's not how that goes. Into the thinnest part? No, absolutely not. That's going to be your most done piece of any meat. Into the thickest part? Pretty good answer. Or is it the internal temperature of cooked meat are not needed since it's cooked? That's ridiculous. Come on, Nathan, do better than that. It's in the thickest part. That's an easy, but there are some questions that are just like this, that you're like, wait, is this too easy? Like, I mean, like you may stop yourself because you're like, that seems crazy. But of course, into your thickest part. Pathogens multiply rapidly when the temperature of meat is in the danger zone range of what temperatures? All right. Is it between 40 and 100, 10 and 40, 100 and 210, 35 and 65? That's easy. 40 to 100. Remember that. So that's your danger zone. All right. You should be able to cool your heated product, no matter how hot it is to begin with, to below 39 degrees Fahrenheit within how many hours? And this is kind of technical. This is probably as technical as they would get, but again, pulled it straight from a book. And so 18, 5 hours. You need to cool down. It is recommended that you cool down your temperature to below 39 degrees within 5 hours. My camera, I can't tell where I am. All right. And so speaking of cooling down meats, 2 methods used to rapidly cool down product. And it could be 2 methods commonly used to cool down product, or they could phrase it in numerous different ways. But this is the best way that they do it. So is it ice bath and placing it in a freezer? That sounds pretty good. Or do you blow on it and fan it? Absolutely not. That's ridiculous. Ice bath and refrigerator. Well, that kind of half seems right, but you know, a freezer sure does seem a little bit better. Or place in a freezer and cut it into smaller pieces. Of course, that's not it. So now we've narrowed it down to 2. So what is it, people? Do you put it in an ice bath in a freezer or an ice bath in a refrigerator? You put it in the freezer. Put it in the freezer. Anybody? Thanks to Katie, I now enjoy watching the Great British Baking Show. Absolutely love it. Finished the season already. But even with baking, you'll notice that they go and they put things in the freezer to cool it down pretty quick. That I would remember this question. Absolutely. All right. Number 20, looking at this. Why are sodium nitrate and sodium nitrite applied to meat when making charcuterie? So what is it that they do? What is it? Is it for flavor and smell? Yeah, kind of maybe, but there's more. To keep the charcuterie from spoiling. That seems pretty good. To encourage pathogens to proliferate and for enhancing both color and flavor. They don't want to encourage. We never want to encourage pathogens. Or is it to prevent pathogens from proliferating and for enhancing both color and flavor? That one sounds pretty good. So I'm going to go with D on that one. That's absolutely right. And again, it's one of the longer answers. I try to give you a little trick in there. That's why you don't read so fast. If you just read over, pathogens and proliferate, enhancing. You could have guessed C probably if you didn't read the whole thing. 21. The pathogen all meat makers are most concerned about. What is it, guys? Come on, please tell me. 21. I'm not going to tell you. You got to tell me. Right. A. Clostridium botulinum. Botulism is what we're worried about, guys. That is paramount. You will get asked a few questions about that. That is huge to the entire industry of charcuterie making. So you know they're going to ask it. But also know what everything underneath it is. Okay. Next up, 22. All righty. You got to know this one. What is the protein primarily responsible for the color of meat? Is it collagen? Was collagen a protein? Myoglobin? That sounds pretty good, right? Actin? No. Dystrophin? No. It's B. So know what myoglobin is. Know that that is the color. Just like when you're cutting steak, it's not blood that pours out. It's these little guys. When you heat meat loaded with an excess of nitrite, you can produce what carcinogen? And that was a tricky one for me to write. So I know that's an odd sounding question, but the point is, if you have too much nitrite on meat and you cook it, that means you're adding nitrite plus heat. So an excess of nitrite plus heat actually creates a carcinogenic. So this is something to know. Like, again, this is a negative thing. Since we all deal with nitrates in charcuterie, we need to know this. 23, we're looking at A, nitro salmon. And I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but know that one. That's A. Next up, I hope you guys are listening. You guys are probably drinking cool beer or at the pool. I know I would like to be. What are the three major components of slow cooking? The three major components of slow cooking. Is it grind size, cooking dish, cooking time, marinating, cooking time, preserving, marinating, cooking temperature, preserving? This is it. Oh my God, this is hard. Spices, fat, meat. Oh my God. So it's marinating, cooking temperature, and preserving. I think I also got that one out of the Olympia provisions. When you chop meat fine, like for pate, and then use the animal's own fat to tenderize and preserve that meat, what is it referred to? What is that called? Is it pate? You're chopping it like for pate. So that's probably not the answer. So just even looking at that, you're like, why would it say pate if it said it's like pate? You can already throw that one out. Is it rillette? One of my favorite things of all time? Could be. That's a good answer because it isn't a lot of fat, right? Is it salami? No. That's not how salami is made. Or is it aspic? Aspic, you need to know what that is. I know it's not that. It's rillette. So this is, you can get asked with cooking style, and I do believe I recall a rillette question on the exam. The term offal refers to, what does that refer to? Somebody tell me. You guys are too quiet. The term offal, is it meats that have spoiled? Is it meat trimmings? Is it leftover fat and sinew? No, it's the organ meats of the animal. You will get asked that. And again, I think that's a middle of the road level of intensity for this test. Okay, meaning that's your average style question for this test. If you know this, right? Organ meats. Oh, organ meat. Perfect. So that's on your test. What is the word that refers to the savory jelly, often clear, that's derived from clarified meat, fish, and other vegetables, stocks, and gelatin? So what is that? What's that savory jelly that you get after cooking meat? Is it aspic? Is it bung? Is it rillette? Is it fat? That's aspic. You're absolutely going to get asked about aspic. Sorry, I may not have already had a beer. All right. That's on your test. Again, they could phrase that these are not verbatim questions at all, guys, but along the same lines, you're going to get asked about that. It's in the mug. That's nobody's business. but whatever it is, it's a lot. All right. What is the English term for beef or pork sausage, which while cooking tends to burst with a bang? It's an English term. And think of like England. What do they call it? It's a banger? That sounds crazy, but not bad. Is it boudin? Is it a beefer? Or is it landjaeger? What do you eat with mash in England? It's bangers and mash. It's a banger. They could ask something that easy too. There were a couple of questions. I was like, oh, that's a gimme. All right. Now this is a little bit differently because I didn't know this right off the bat, to tell you the truth. The answer key is wrong. Oh my God, 28. Let me make a note. I got my key right here in my pen. Thank you for bringing that up. 28 is A. I'm sorry. It is alpha. It is a banger. And I have 28 as B. Yes. So 28 is A. Excuse me. 28 is A. That's why I like going through this in person. It's a banger, as in bangers and mash. And that's another thing. Like, I know that sounds simple, but these common terms, like they're going to ask more about that. Like, I know it seems silly, but like that's something you should know. That's like your base knowledge. Again, you are getting a certification for this, but again, it's your base level. So you're not going to get to ask the most unknown kind of most esoteric meat question, but bangers you could absolutely. All right. And like this one's a little bit different. And I was like, what? Oh, I didn't know this one. Let me get my 29 ready here. What does the term abats mean? Is it a French culinary term for aspic? I don't know. French culinary term for offal? Italian culinary term? Oh my God. So that could be very confusing. It's a French culinary term for offal. So that's B. I know that for sure. And I remember this question. I tried to phrase it as close as I could, but there was a question. Like, I remember this specifically being on the test, number 30 here. Black pudding is another name for which sausage? Black pudding is another name for which sausage? Is it landjaeger? I've been throwing out there a lot. Is it lomo? No, I know lomo. I know it's not that. Is it saucisson sec? No, I don't. I've never. Why would anybody call that black pudding? Or is it blood sausage? It's blood sausage. So number 30, black pudding is also known as blood sausage. I would know that, and also know the boudin version of black pudding and blood sausage. There's a boudin made the same way. That was on the test too. The commercial term for the large intestine of a beef animal when used as a casing material to produce certain sausages. So the large intestine of a beef animal, what is it? Is it bone? Is it chitterlings? Is it collagen, cellulose? Well, looking at these, collagen and cellulose are used. You can make casing material with those, but that doesn't come from the animal. So I'd cross those two out automatically. Bung or chitterlings. Well, I know chitterlings because I'm from the South, and chitlins. Yeah, but I know that's intestines from chickens, or that's pork intestines that are cooked. So bung is the large intestine of a beef animal. A. Now this one is a little out there, but it's so out there that it could make sense. A capon refers to what animal? So this is an animal that's used to cook. Is it a castrated buck? Bless her, they're all castrated. So at least that's good. Is it a castrated cockerel or steer or boar? It's B. It's a little bit out there, but this is that would be as hard as it gets on the test. Okay. This is absolutely on your test. They could ask it in any number of ways. The Clostridium botulinum causes what paralytic illness?
Nathan, could we go back real quick to the previous question?
Yeah.
And I'm sure this is, other people may know this already, but what does the castration do?
That I think,
or for the flavor or meat or whatever.
I don't have an answer. I don't know. I wish I knew that answer. Usually for something like for steer, I know what you're doing is you're pulling out, you know, the production of testosterone that goes into the animal, which could make the animal tough.
Oh, well then that's probably it.
So okay. That's probably it. No, thanks for asking. Like I had to walk through my brain there in a minute, but that's why they castrate bulls.
Appreciate it.
There we go. Look at here, coming in hot. Jennifer Cox. It's a special type of chicken created to make meat more tender and less gamey. It's a rooster that's been castrated before reaching sexual maturity, which improves the quality of the meat. After that, it is fed beautiful, a rich diet of milk and porridge. Google, you're the best. And also Jennifer Cox, thank you. Awesome. Learning together. All righty, going back. What are we getting? What's this paralytic illness? Of course, it's in the name, guys. Look for it. It's not COVID-19. We're not worried about that in this test. It's not E. coli. It's not salmonella. And also paralytic. It's a parasite. You know, you got to know the difference between what is a parasite, right? So it's botulism. That's what we're worried about. You'll probably get asked several questions about botulism. All right. What is the mesentery or thin fatty membrane that lines a hog stomach that's used to wrap sausages, terrines, and some roasted meats? And guess what? It disappears during cooking. Okay, so this one, I like it. This is a little odd, but I think this is on the test too. Is it caul fat, aspic, collagen, or sinew? Throwing that out there, like sinew, we know it's not. Sinew is there. That's what you bite into, and it's like it gets in your damn teeth, right? Mark that off. It doesn't disappear while cooking, so you know that's gone. Collagen, not so much. Aspic, the thing about aspic is you get that coming out of fats, but that's there. That's part of it. That ends up covering the meat when cooked. So caul fat, that is A. That is caul fat A on 34. I believe that's on the test too. By the way, I tried to recall as much as I could from the test and put the questions and answers that I could mostly remember on here. So hopefully a lot of this you'll see again in some form or fashion. All right, 35. What is the major difference between rillettes and rillons? I think this was on the test. This is a good question to ask. So is it rillons are a smoother texture while rillettes are larger chunks tossed in sugar and crisp in a pan? It should say pan, not pat. Or is it rillettes or smoother texture? While on the other hand, rillons are larger chunks tossed in sugar and crisp in a pan. That's more likely because I know what rillettes are from the earlier in the test. I remember that question, right? So now I'm coming down to the test and saying, well, I know what rillettes now. They're chopped fine like pate. So I know that's a smoother texture. So B is in the running. A is not. Rillettes are always made with pork meat. There's no rule about that. Absolutely not. So that's out of the question. Rillons are raw and rillettes are cooked. That doesn't seem right. I know rillettes are cooked, but I'm going with B, and it is B. There we go. And I would know that. This is crazy, but I really think this was on the test. It's good to know, though. What major U.S. city was referred to as Porkopolis due to it being the center of meat processing in the 19th century? Who knows this? It's Cincinnati. In Cincinnati, Ohio is Porkopolis. That's, if you ever go there, you'll see that I don't know if they still have them, but they had pigs, different kind of painted pigs all throughout the city. So Katie guessed it purely based on their horrific interpretation of chili. That's a good point. But as silly as this is, I do think I recall. That's why I put that one on here. I know it seems odd, but Cincinnati was the center of pork in the 19th century in the United States of America. So big deal. Excellent. All right, guys, we're getting closer. This term refers to the upper part of the shoulder or neck. And again, that's probably my misphrasing, but think about a pig, but it also could refer to other cuts of meat as well. Like, so what upper part of the shoulder and neck? Is it the collar? That seems pretty good, guess. Is it the belly? No, we know the belly is literally the belly. Is it the loin? No, that's not necessarily it. Or is it the butt? No, the butt's actually the shoulder, but it is the shoulder, but it's not part of the neck. It's the collar. 37 is A, collar. Know your cuts of meat. Any graph that you see of the poor pig divided up, know where what part of meat comes from where. Hopefully that makes sense to you. Mostly with pork, by the way, mostly with pigs. All right, 39. If you notice your salami has a growth of black mold, what should you do? I was trying to rephrase this as like, what will be your first step? But that could be a couple of different things, and it's like your best answer. So if you see a growth of black mold on your salami, do you peel and scrape the mold off the salami and continue to sell it? I'm sure some people may have. Or the salami should be discarded. I'm very wary of black mold on anything because that usually indicates danger. Okay, so I'm keeping B in the running on that one. Or do you cut away the mold portion of the salami and continue to sell it? Okay, so you scrape the mold off is A, or B, you just cut that moldy portion off and continue to sell it. That could be, but that's kind of shady. Or do you store the salami with the rest of your products and wait for the mold to go away on its own? That's silly. That's not how things work. So we know that one's out. You should throw the salami away. You should discard it. That, and the only thing that they would put above that, of course, like if they ask, like, what should you do first? I would always go to the answer if they have the selection of take a picture and report back to the distributor or producer. That's something, of course, all of us in the industry, that's what we know as an answer. That's what we all want. That would have been like the first correct answer, but then you discard it. The key is you don't sell it. Anything with black mold, negatory, good buddy. Okay. Bresaola, or bresaola, I've heard a couple different pronunciations in my days, is a form of charcuterie typically made from what animal? Is it beef, poultry, venison, or pork? There's style, I think, like if you make it a similar way, you can, there's a rule where you can make it with different animals if you want to, but that's why I said typically, or if you were use the word primarily, made from what animal? This is beef. This is your beef option. This is for what category managers, I feel like, should at least try to carry this as a beef option for those who don't want pork. Which of the following terms is often referred to as Italian bacon? Is it pancetta, pork roll, lardo, or induja? Pancetta, that's an easy one. Guys, pancetta, this is a good one. 41 is A. Now hitting down on 42. I hope you guys are getting something out of this. Which of the following is not a step for slicing prosciutto? Okay, goodness, what is not? Slice with an extremely sharp blade. Yeah, that seems about right. Remove the skin before slicing. Yeah, because that basically, I call that leather. You know, that gets really hard. You gotta cut that off, or you're gonna damage your slicer or make your blade dull. Yeah. Next is remove all the fat before slicing. I don't know about all that. I don't know about that. So I don't know if that's the right one. I would hold on to C. Or slice paper thin. Yeah, you should slice it paper thin. So the obvious answer there is remove all the fat before slicing. No, I used to have customers that wanted me to do that in my slicing days. And it was so hard to be like, no, you have to take this. This is what it's there for. Plus, besides it being part of the charcuterie, if you're a retailer, you pay for that. You don't want to cut off as much weight as possible before you sell something, because you got to make a profit, right? There we go. So you want to keep some of the fat, but that's why I threw all out there in large letters. Look for things like that. Which of the following is not, again, another one, not an example of charcuterie from the whole muscle dry category? Again, no in your categories from your body of knowledge, what goes into what category. I didn't put enough of those questions on here. You could get easily asked 10 questions about the categories. So we need to know what is not. So we need to think about what is whole muscle and dry. Jambon de Bayonne? That may be. That sounds about right. Prosciutto San Daniele? Absolutely. That's a whole muscle that's dry. Lomo? Yeah. Mortadella? No, absolutely not. That's not dried. That's a cooked product. It's emulsified. That's not a whole muscle at all. So that's an obvious one. Mortadella on 43. Westphalian ham hails from which country? I can't remember exactly what they asked, but there's one question about Westphalian ham. So I would look that up. I remember one question being about it, and I think it's more about where it's from. So is that from America? Could be. That doesn't seem like that foreign of a word. Canada? Germany? That seems weird. We haven't talked about Germany all day on this test. Or France. It's Germany. Just looking at the facts, know where that's from. And I believe one thing that's majorly different about that is it's initially made with the bone in, and then after a few months, the bone is removed, and then it's allowed to cure after that as well. And I think that's one of the major differences. All right. 45. What category does speck Altoides belong in? So we got to know what speck is first, right? And this is how they would ask. So they could either give you a list of the category to pick out a meat that's in it, or give you the meat and then make you list out and ask you what category it belongs to. So is it a whole muscle, dried, smoked? Whew, that sounds pretty good to me. It is. It's a whole dry. We know it's a whole muscle. Oh my God. So the thing is, we know it's whole muscle. Every choice is whole muscle. So we know that. It's dried. Thing is, if you know speck, you know it's dried. So that would cut out C and D automatically. It's not cooked and it's not unsmoked. It's not cooked or smoked. So that cuts out C and D. But if you know speck, you would know that it is smoked. So it is a whole muscle, dried and smoked. All right, 46. The term salumi, which is where we're going to get our designation name of Salumiere, has its origin in what language? Is it French? No, we know charcuterie is French, right? So let's cut that out. English, the English words don't often end in I, so we'll cut that out. Italian or German? I'm thinking Italian. It's C. It has its root in the Italian language. All righty, the term. Now this one, I hope we all got this. I know you probably reading this one are like, what are you talking about, dude? There's an en cru question. The term en cru refers to any food baked in what? A pastry crust in a convection oven in its own fat. No, we know that's rillette. We're cutting out C. A loaf of bread. This isn't Panera. Let's cut that out. It's pastry crust. So do know that. All righty. Boudin Rouge. God, that'd be a great name for a club. An after hours club, the Boudin Rouge. Is unique in and this was the question may be a little weird, is unique in that then the main ingredient is, so excuse me, that question was written poorly, I apologize, but what's the major ingredient in Boudin Rouge? Is it head cheese? Is it pig's blood or pig's brain? Is it fresh blood or cooked pig's blood? 48 is D, cooked pig's blood. And I think, I couldn't remember the exact question, but that is on your test. How they word it is not. Just know that Boudin Rouge, cooked pig's blood. They go together, however they're going to ask it. But that one I'm pretty sure is on the exam. All righty. Bacon is a popular form of charcuterie made from what part of the pig? Yeah, this may sound silly, but like, you got to know this if you're going to wear that badge, right? Is it from the shoulder? No. The belly? Yep. It's not from the loin. It's not from the jaws. You're talking about the belly. 49, of course. 50. We just got 10 more to go, guys. I don't even know what time it is, but I'm going to continue to roll. If you've got to go, again, this will be recorded. Why is a majority of charcuterie made from pigs? This is very general question, I get, but you need to know this, and they could ask it in a much better way than I did. But why do we use, and we talk about this in charcuterie class, why do we use pigs more than any other animal in charcuterie? Pig farming is inexpensive. I don't really know, but I think it's not that cheap. Pigs eat a lot. Pigs have fast reproductive and growth rates. They do. And that's they reproduce quickly and they grow quickly. That makes that a good answer. Or is it pigs are the only delicious animal? No, there's a lot of delicious animals. Pigs are indigenous to everywhere except Antarctica. That's just false. Pigs are not indigenous to the United States, right? There we go. So we know that they have fast reproductive and growth rates. What does MSG stand for? You are going to get asked this. I know it sounds simple, but MSG, and especially when you're talking about even nitrates and nitrites, that affects all of us. You're going to get asked at least one question about this in particular. And of course, 51, we know it's A, monosodium glutamate. I try to throw out weird things to confuse you, but that's what it stands for. No, they can ask a question around that somehow. What foodborne illness is caused by Trichinae spirals? That is going to be B, trichinosis. The only way to really know that, look for what it's in the name, right? So that's trichinosis. But know the difference between all of that, between Salmonella, trichinosis, Staphylococcus, and E. coli. Again, hopefully that transfers over from your CCP days, but there are a lot of food safety questions on this, at least 20. If a package of bacon is labeled uncured, what does that mean? Does that mean the bacon's completely raw? No, absolutely not. The bacon has been cured with natural nitrates such as vegetable powders. That sounds right. Or is it no bacon can ever be called uncured as it is all legally cured? It's not a fight. That's the way we want it to be, but C's not the answer. And the bacon is cooked, so there's no need to cure it. That's wrong. So the answer is B. The bacon has been cured with natural nitrates, such as vegetable powders. That's how it gets the uncured label. You're going to get asked in some way or another this question for sure. That's a big deal to us, and it may even be upwards to 3 questions just about the word uncured and how and that it's celery powders or whatever powders you can use, celery, cherry powders. All right, 54, we're almost done, guys. What following term refers to the lower part of the leg corresponding to the ankle of an animal? So the lower part of an egg. Now this may seem weird, but let's see where we're going with this. Is it the hoof corresponding to the ankle? It's the lower part of the leg. The hoof we know is the bottom. That's the very bottom, so we know that's not it. The lower ankle, that sounds just stupid. I don't think that's it. I don't like that answer. Is it the hock? That we may go somewhere there. Is it the jowl? We know it's not the jowl because the jowl is right here on the upper part of the neck. So I'm going with hock. 54 is C. Salted and cured, savoring the culture, heritage, and flavor of America's preserved meats, was written by which author? Is that Paul Kensett? He wrote more about cheese. You should know him from your cheese world. Harold McGee? No, Harold McGee wrote some pretty good things though, right? Is it Michael Ruhlman? He's more in charcuterie. Or is it Jeffrey P. Roberts? I would mark this down automatically with C and D. If you didn't know off the top of your head, we know it's not Paul because he wrote about cheese. Harold McGee wrote about food in general, right? And then Michael and Jeffrey both wrote about charcuterie, but know that Jeffrey P. Roberts, I've been pointing out his book. You should own it. You should have been studying it already. He wrote that. That's D. All righty. And this one, I know I've been using this as an example with all of you before. This is literally on the test. And it could be written a little bit better than this, of course. But Finocchione salami's defining flavor characteristic comes from what? Let's say what spice comes from what? Is it fennel, fenugreek, fat, or wild boar? No, it comes from fennel. That's where like some of these specific questions could get. And even like, yeah, but that one's, that's a free question for you to get. All righty. Quilatello belongs in what charcuterie category? Now you kind of got to know what that is. That's a little more esoteric, but that's on your list of things to study. Is it whole muscle dry smoked? Oh my God. Whole muscle cooked, unsmoked? It's whole dry muscle. This is A. 57 is A. All right. Winding it down here, team. Fermentation in salami is caused by what? Fermentation, you got to have, just like everything else with fermentation, you got to convert, you're converting those sugars, just like in cheese, to lactic acid. So you're converting a sugar to an acid. And that's where you get your fermentation from. And that's where you get the tang in the salami. This, like, that could also be a question, is where does the specific tang of flavor in salami come from? It would be fermentation. So kind of take these questions and see how you can turn them into other questions. And that's literally what the test is going to be like. Now, 59, which is not an example of slicer safety. You're going to get a couple of like safety questions. And even though they're throughout, I had to read, like, go through pretty much all the books they suggested to find this. And I found this more so in this book here, Professional Charcuterie, where they gave a little bit more about slicer specifics. And let's see. So here we go. What is not an example of safety? Understand how to assemble and operate all equipment correctly. Take care not to overload or obstruct machinery. That sounds like a pretty good, sounds like good advice. Okay. Regularly lubricate the moving parts of your machine according to manufacturer's instructions. Yeah, that sounds pretty much right. Always turn off the power before assembling, cleaning, and servicing. That sounds right. God, those are all good things you should do when slicing. Or remove safety guards before operating any equipment. Absolutely not. So D is the answer on that one. You're getting a couple of questions like that. And even though it may seem a little weird, the answer is going to stick more out to you. So, you know, if something's like, especially read manufacturer's instructions, even though we may not want it to be, oftentimes that's like a good answer, right? Now, number 60. Never put cooked food on a cutting board that you have used for raw food without adequately cleaning and sanitizing it first. Great advice. This will control cross-contamination, the most common means of spreading what? So this again is where you could get things. So looking at 60 is that parasites. Parasites are more where you're going to have your trichinosis coming from. Parasites are going to come from inside the animal. Like you could cross-contaminate with parasites, but that's not your major thing. Salmonella? That sounds pretty good. Trichinella spiralis? Again, that's more, that is the parasite. And then colostrum, so botulism, you're not going to get out of there so much. It's B, salmonella. Salmonella is what you get with cross-contamination. All righty, team. I know that was a short little practice test for you. I hope it gave you some insight. I did my best to recall as much style of information that was on the exam. And if you've been reading a little bit, I think you're going to do fine. Still continue to study, go through, know your muscle groups, know your preserving groups like whole dry or whole dry smoked, and know your major ingredients. Know the big dogs. You will get asked about prosciutto San Daniele. You will get asked about speck. You will get asked about finocchione. You will get asked about mortadella. Know your big dogs. You're going to absolutely get that. Practice your math. Get that in your head. Use those formulas that I sent out. That is absolutely on your test, 100% on your test. And the rest of it, take your time. Relax. You've taken a big test before. Don't take this easy, but I thought the CCP was much more difficult than this. And I don't think that they made it to be easy, but I think that the mindset and preparation for that CCP helped with the preparation of this. You guys got this. Go in, do your best. If you don't mind, once you're done with this, to help me continuously improve my training for this, because I want to improve. But again, they don't give specific training tips with this. I'm in the same boat you guys are. If you guys don't mind after your test, if you can think about it, to shoot me any ideas of what was on the test that I missed on here. I'm not looking for specific questions. I'm not trying to get people to cheat, but if there's anything that you can share with me to continuously build and educate others, I would greatly appreciate. Hopefully you all have received information about the exam. Again, I don't get that. I'm just here to help guide you to this exam. Hopefully you've already got that. I wish you all the best. Continue to study. And then, like I said, help me make this training better for other people. Are we going to have a review session on Friday in Atlanta? No, I apologize, but I was unable to get charcuterie makers together for a review session like with CCP. So I greatly apologize about that, but I was not there. Nobody's available at that time. So we're not going to do it like the CCP. You are more than welcome. If you're there Friday, I suggest getting together or reaching out now and asking who's going to be in town and get together as a study group. But I'm getting pulled away to do some other work. Andy DeCoo has added a Quizlet link. Yeah. Click on that. He's got some good notes.
We have 500 questions on that link. Not all mine. I stole some of them, but feel free to use that. You can pull it up on your phone and sitting around and quiz yourself. So it's a good little tool.
Excellent. No, thank you. I appreciate that. Use that out. Continue using it. You guys study, but don't freak out. Don't freak out. You guys have this. I know all of you. I've worked with all of you. You guys have this. Go in with confidence. Do your best, and you're going to do fine. I promise you. All righty. Well, thank you, team. I hope you all have a very amazing, whatever holiday this is, kick off the summer, Memorial Day. Remember that. Have a great, safe holiday, and good luck on the exam. Cheers.